think of like a trial topic, like
trial.
a warm-up
A
Star Wars
warm-up.
topic, like before we talk about the rise of the last Skywalker Jedi.
Without any beer? Oh,
That's what I'm talking about. We should get the beer started, but we should have like a trial topic before we dive deep, so we can get the juices flowing.
So we should have some beer and talk about something else.
Well,
first?
it can be Star Wars still. That's the thing. You just pick an aspect of Star Wars. We could talk about Kathleen Kennedy.
No.
Or we could talk about how woke Star Wars is.
Oh, no,
So
do we
don't,
have to?
don't get too political. Well,
I don't know. It's gonna dive in. We're gonna end up there anyway. So
I just mean, yeah, we could, rather than talk about the movie, we could just talk about the things surrounding the movie, expectations going into the movie,
but
where the landscape of Star Wars is.
but do we go here
Yes,
right now?
I think so.
All right, we are recording. So
Indeedly do.
all right. So welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Hammered Brothers. I'm Adam.
And I'm Jake.
And we've got some beer. Of course we do. Some Summit. Summit
Yeah, not summer.
Winter Ale from Summit Brewing. It is delicious. And, of course, it's that time of year where there has been a fresh release. And I'm not talking about my bottom.
I was like, thanks for the warning, but all right.
Sorry. Beautiful. It is a wonderful beer. Oh, there we go. So,
All right.
cheers to the new year.
Welcome to 2020.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that is good beer, though. So, you thought that we shouldn't just dive right into the topic at hand, which, as everyone should know, is obvious by now. Of course, there is a new release, of which I mean Star Wars.
Star Wars. The Rise of Skywalker.
The Rise of Skywalker.
In theaters now.
It is still in theaters. Yes, that is true. Yeah, it is.
Mm-hmm.
So, my guess is, if you're watching this, you have either decided to boycott or you have decided that you just want to finish this thing off.
Yeah. Get it over with.
Get it over with. Maybe you even enjoyed it. Oh, I don't know about all that. Sounds like a stretch. But before we get into talking about that, a little warm-up. So if we're going to talk about a little warm-up, and mostly because this is our first beer of the night, and trust me, Rise of Squash. Rise of Squawk Walker. Squat Walker. That's what my daughter does when she's walking around in diapers. She's a squat walker. I don't know. So there is a lot to talk about in Rise of Skywalker. Wow, I did it again, just about.
It's a hard title, okay?
It's yeah. Yes, for so many reasons. So many. Yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing that happened, and we'll talk about it in a little bit, but let's see. So where do we want to go? I don't know. I feel like maybe we should just dive in. In which case, should we do our intro over again?
Maybe.
Hello, and I'm Adam. Son of a gun.
God damn it.
We don't have to. I mean, we could do jump cuts.
It doesn't matter.
Jump
It matters
cuts.
so little.
It does. I can cut all of that out.
You could literally just have us do the beer pouring and cut out up until right here.
I've done that before.
You'd only have to do one cut to do this.
That's
so.
true.
So
Well,
you can start over.
I do feel like we should just dive right in. I don't know if we need to. It's going to. So, in my mind, and I'm going to let you take off here in just a moment, but in my mind, this is going to be a bit of a slow burn. It was not a very good movie.
No.
It was not very good.
So I saw this movie in the theater, which, I have mixed feelings about that fact in the first place. It's just how it happened. I don't need to make excuses. I definitely enjoyed my experience watching this movie more than I did watching The Last Jedi. That I will say. I also had a few beers in me going in, so
A wise choice.
may have tempered my experience slightly. But even in retrospect, a couple weeks have gone by, I think that this is the more enjoyable film between the two. That's my opinion on enjoyment factor.
Oh, boy.
Does that make it a good film? No.
No.
It is a bad film.
Yeah.
No ifs, ands, or buts.
Yeah.
But I think there was more enjoyment to be had here than in The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah. Yeah. I really struggle to agree with that. On the one hand, it's undeniably true, but on the other hand, it's so utterly bland that
Yes.
I have a hard time. It's like the Last Jedi made me angry, and the Rise of Skywalker made me lethargic, maybe kind of sleepy. I had like no emotional connection to this movie. And whereas at least with the Last Jedi, I had like a visceral negative reaction to it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what that means. They're both terrible.
So the one made you feel something, at least, even if that was a very negative
Even if
something.
it was anger, unhappiness, dismay, all of those things.
Yeah, this one, I don't know. I had the occasional very brief positive emotion for this one. Still quite a few negatives, but never anywhere near as strong of a negative feeling as I would get very frequently in The Last Jedi.
Yeah, well, The Last Jedi was you just kind of sat there confused as to what it was you were watching.
Yeah.
At least, I mean, on the one hand, this you watch it and you're confused, but for completely different reasons.
Yeah. But yeah, in The Last Jedi, every subversion came with a deepening anger that would just rise up in me over the course of the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a heck of a thing. I still am astounded by what has transpired with Disney and with Star Wars in the first place.
How do you buy something for what, $4 billion? What was it?
Yeah, I think it was $4 billion.
4.3 billion or something, some ridiculous amount of money, and then you just say, you know what? It doesn't matter. We don't need to plan this out at all.
Yeah,
let's just go. Just go.
And to dive into a trilogy, no less, with obviously no plan.
Obviously no.
Oh, I mean, the approach that they were taking were we're going to have different directors each time, and it's going to be this, and people are going to be able to do different things with it. I mean, that all sounded great on its face initially, but I mean, it literally took 2 movies, and they're like, oh my gosh, we have to salvage this sinking ship.
Yeah.
I mean, it was so abysmally poorly executed, and maybe it just seems like the simplest thing was that they needed some sort of plan that everybody had to at least adhere to this set of guidelines. Like, start with these rules, and whatever you want to do within the confines of this story, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, you make an outline, and you just follow the outline. The outline doesn't have to include that many details.
Yeah.
In fact, maybe the fewer the better. But you got to have an overarching storyline.
It's better than doing a bunch of retconning and like...
yeah. No, that was my first thought after seeing this movie. I'm like, this could have been called Course Correction the Movie or something like that after everything that it undoes from The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
Just astounding how many things were undone, often just with like a single line of dialogue, which
like
was
a throwaway line.
which was pretty hilarious at times.
Yeah. So I suppose so I don't know how far we're into this. I'm only into it this far. So I think we may as well just jump into spoilers because why not? I mean, everyone will have made up their mind. I did not pay to see this movie. I'm going to put this out. I'm going to throw this out there. I had intended to boycott this movie. I refused to go see it and to give Disney any money, but there was an opportunity that kind of took place where I could view the movie without paying any money out of my pocket.
And Disney didn't make any money off of your viewing of this
Disney
movie
would not
either.
have made money off of me regardless. I had made up my mind on that long ago. But I have seen the movie, for better or for worse. Don't ask me exactly what that means, but I have seen it. And it starts, I mean, even in the title crawl, it's
So can we just, and maybe I should look this up, but what is with all the fully
don't
capitalized
know.
words? That's something new to this trilogy, right?
I don't know,
It's
but
so
I think so.
off-putting looking. I
Yeah.
don't know if they did that in all three of the new trilogy movies, but
It's
for
because
sure it
of,
started in The Last Jedi.
Well, it started about 20
Or for
years
sure it
ago
was
when
in The
people
Last
started
Jedi.
texting and they forgot how grammar and syntax works.
Why capitalize random words? It's so off-putting to look at. It's such a nitpicky thing to say, but it's so distracting.
Yeah. The next thing they'll start having different colors.
Yeah.
You know, instead of just the yellow
They'll
or
just
gold.
have literal emojis after some of the words. Instead of the words, they'll have the emoji.
Yeah, there you go. Mostly just the poop emoji. So, yeah, it starts with Kylo Ren apparently finding, and I know there's a lot of people out there talking about this movie, and it's hard to not refer to a lot of what other people have said, but I mean, we've got
It
the
is.
the thing that he uses to go to the place,
The MacGuffin.
the MacGuffin. And I mean, I'm not one to throw around words like MacGuffin, but there is literally no other way
It's
to
it's what
describe
it is.
this.
It's the thing. It's the important thing that is a random object that everybody needs.
that we haven't heard about until this
No.
movie.
No.
And now all of a sudden it's the most important thing that there is. So there's that. And the movie starts off with that. It leads off with that. I mean, well, in the title crawl, I guess there's the dead speak.
Yeah.
Oh, what a wonderful way.
Emperor Palpatine is back in business.
Because now this is the Palpatine saga
Yes.
from start to finish. Yeah, they can do prequels where he's back on the Sith planet or whatever, and
Yeah.
then the post whatever happens next. I mean, so he's dead, but he said in the movie, "I've been dead before."
Yeah.
So he's gonna be back.
More
I mean,
than likely.
at some point, somebody's gonna pull that out. They're like, "Well, we had this line, and are we sure that he's really gone?" I don't know. Nothing means anything anymore. So who knows?
That was just another clone of Palpatine, and he has an even bigger base on
On
some
some
other
other planet. it's like Starkiller Base.
Exactly.
It's like this was the Sith
They've
home
done this
planet,
before.
but now it's the Sith home galaxy or
Yeah.
some dumb thing. It's just whatever, this his own whole solar system, and instead of the Sith in physical manifestation, now it's going to be he's part of the ethereal dark star energy that is where all of the dark side of the Force comes. Whatever. I don't. It just nothing means anything. Nothing means anything.
Yep.
So Kylo Ren is doing a thing, and he's finding the MacGuffin because that's a thing now that he has to do, and he's still super angry all the time, throwing tantrums.
All the time. Oh, but also one of the first things he does is has his helmet rebuilt, because obviously you have to undo that.
Yeah.
Retcon.
How many times has that helmet been wrecked? Was it just the once?
I just the once, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, he broke it in the second movie, and he left it in some elevator somewhere, and apparently someone went and picked up all the pieces,
Yeah.
put them back together, fancy red lines where
Yeah.
all the broken pieces were.
Okay. Yeah.
Looks super neat.
Did it?
No.
I couldn't decide if they were supposed to be glowing or not.
Yeah, hard to say.
They were very red.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a thing that happens.
Which shouldn't have broken it in the second movie, I guess, because that was very pointless.
Yeah. So he uses the MacGuffin to get to the MacGuffin place.
Yeah, he flies through the red mist.
Yeah.
And then he comes out on the other side, and it's very visible that there is no red mist on the other side of the planet. So clearly, if he just came at the planet from a different direction, you wouldn't need the MacGuffin to get there.
Yeah, I hate that. I know that other people have pointed this out, but it was so obvious.
It's so blatant. Like, they just made a choice because I guess they thought the planet would look cooler just against a completely black background.
Yeah.
They decided they had to show it that way, even though it doesn't make any logical sense.
No, it just...
The planet should have been shrouded in this red nebula.
Which would actually have made a lot of the ending sequence when there's the space battle make a lot more sense. But the way that
Other than how the hell all those ships get there.
All of those ships. I mean, at least if they were all kind of coming in through the red mist.
One at a time.
And they're like, well, we can't get back out with the Starkiller destroyer things then unless we've got this beacon or what. At least that is, I mean, it would have given a reason other than they don't know what up from down is.
Right.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, so it starts off in a poor place, but then we get into the Palpatine stuff. And don't get me wrong, Palpatine's the best part of the movie.
Oh, absolutely.
Far and away. He was the best part of all of the movies.
Very possible.
Except for maybe...
I mean,
he
wasn't in episode 4, so...
That's true.
I guess there's that.
Technically, he wasn't in episode 5. At least Ian McDermott wasn't until that was redone.
Sure.
It was like some old lady in makeup or something like that.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, it totally
didn't
was.
even know that.
The original. Yep. But
awesome.
the Emperor was technically in The Empire Strikes Back. So
yeah, which, obviously they put in prequel Palpatine once they redid that one again and made him look awful because prequel Palpatine, after he gets his face burned up, looks awful.
I've never, ever understood how they made the Emperor look so good in Return of the Jedi in 1982, whenever that came out, and he has never looked as good since.
Not once.
No. I mean, he looked okay when he was not burned and stuff,
he
when he looked like himself still.
You can't, the guy got older. What do you do? I mean, he got a neck thing started to happen as he aged, and there's no way to get rid of it. He just got older, so I mean, I can't fault him that.
No, of course not.
I can fault them for the big rubber mask they put over his face.
The giant prosthetic they had him wear.
Oh my God.
Yeah. We're gonna take away your ability to move your eyebrows. That's a great idea. Emote more.
So I did feel like they made him look. They did his makeup in a way more similar to the Return of the Jedi.
Yes.
It's just that his face is that much older.
Yeah.
And has changed that much that he's not going to look the same.
Yeah. He definitely looked better than the prequels.
Way better. A lot better.
Yeah. Yeah, certainly. But yeah, it's so that was a thing that happened, and then apparently he conjures starships.
That's the term he used. Now, I've seen a lot of videos already of people taking words extremely literally, which I don't feel like is the right approach. Conjured is just the word he used. It just means they were made. We don't know how. Maybe they were built normal ways. Maybe he used magical force powers to make them. We don't know. He just means they were made. They were brought into existence. And he didn't go into detail on how.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's fair, except when he raised them through the crust of the planet.
I guess.
So it lent itself to the idea that they were somehow conjured in a certain respect.
It did, I guess.
I don't know. It was deeply unclear, and one of the many things
too stupid for me to buy, I guess. I just can't.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with more of they were being built in like shipyards, and for all we know on this planet, there's lots of dust that gets blown around, and over the course of the last 40 years, they got covered up with dust, so they're not really rising out of the planet so much as they are just lifting out of this dust.
That is awfully charitable.
I guess.
I'll give it to you.
I can't buy that he conjured fully staffed spaceships out of the planet's crust.
Yeah.
So I have to go with they were built on this planet over time.
Yeah.
Have to.
Yeah. I mean, it does seem somewhat implied in the background. It's just so poorly explained and executed.
Yep. Because they got to move past it. They don't have time to explain shit.
No.
You know, The Last Jedi left them with absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing to move forward with. So if you want to have a grand epic conclusion, you gotta cover your ground.
A lot of work to do.
You gotta cover your ground fucking fast, man.
You gotta come up with a whole new story.
Yeah.
Or in the case, because this is now J.J. Abrams who did direct The Force Awakens, he's like, okay, now I have to basically completely discredit what happened in The Last Jedi and make up for all of the stuff that, Ryan McFuckface didn't do.
Yeah.
Because he was so busy subverting everyone's expectations, including apparently J.J. Abrams' expectations. I mean, nobody could fathom that the movie was going to be that bad. Nobody.
No.
And I love, God, I actually kind of love how none of these people are willing to admit that it was a train wreck and that they had to just completely rebuild and try to save face somehow.
The movie says it in what it does. It literally does, because it goes through and it undoes so many things from that movie. But yeah, you'll never see an actual like Disney person say that these were mistakes.
Like J.J. Abrams will never say that
can't.
Rian Johnson fucked his trilogy.
No.
He will never say that. I hope that someday he can.
Wouldn't that be swell?
I'm rooting for you, J.J.
And it's not like J.J. Abrams left him some perfect thing to go off of and Ryan fucked it up. He didn't.
No.
He just left him a bunch of open-ended questions that he assumed would be, you know, at least actually answered instead of just it basically thrown under a rug or something.
Yeah, well, and I was pretty lukewarm on Force Awakens in the first place. I'm like, yeah, I see what you're doing. I'm not feeling it yet, but depending on what happens next, I see what you're doing. Okay. And then to have that kind of lukewarm thing happen to start with and then be hit with The Last Jedi.
Yeah, that's the thing. The movie that followed The Force Awakens really tempered my opinion of The Force Awakens. Because if you took all the things that were started in The Force Awakens and just really went with them and tried to make something interesting out of them, that would have made that movie look better in retrospect.
Yeah.
But when you take what Rian Johnson did and just said, fuck all these things that were started, whatever you think would happen, anything that would have made sense to happen with all of these things, I'm going to do the opposite of that thing. That makes that first movie look much, much worse in retrospect.
Yeah, it artificially aged the movie very, very quickly.
Oh man,
it made it look like I don't even know how to describe it, because I don't think anything like this has been done before. I've never experienced it. I've never seen anything like it. Maybe there's shows out there where things switch. I could invoke Game of Thrones, but that's kind of a different kind of train wreck.
Different kind, yeah.
Yeah, I mean that is ineptitude.
That at least
that was a slow motion train wreck. Like we all kind of saw that unraveling, and we all knew that it was never going to end the way that any of us wanted, or in a way that would be satisfying. They were busy subverting their own expectations as well, which was stupid.
Yeah,
just okay. I'm tired of Hollywood people thinking that we want our expectations subverted or that it's good for us or something. Tell a good story.
Yeah,
you can have shocking things happen that are not necessarily subversive, that fit within the narrative, but are still genuinely shocking.
Yeah. Well, there's another thing on this that makes it all so stupid. It's like, guess what? There's a lot of fucking people in the world.
Yeah.
And a lot of people like to think about things that they like and where they could go in the future. So no matter what you do, someone has already thought of what you're going to end up doing. Somebody has. Somebody had already thought that, hey, Ray's parents are nobody.
Yeah,
Someone had, and it
yeah.
was pointed out after it happened. So it's like that technically wasn't a subversion of everyone's expectation because someone had thought of it.
Yeah.
So you know what? It doesn't matter if someone has already thought of the thing that you're going to end up doing. Just do the thing that makes the best story.
Yeah. That's exactly right. And sometimes taking a wild left turn or a wild right turn, that is the right thing to do for this. Again, not to invoke Game of Thrones, but by the time I was watching the show, I had not read any of the books. I have since read all of the books, of course, but I did not really see the Red Wedding coming, and I had not. When I first started watching Game of Thrones, I had mistakenly understood that it only was 3 seasons long and it was over.
Oh.
Guess what happens at the end of season 3? So imagine my surprise when everyone dies at the end of season 3. But the Red Wedding is a great example of something. Well, even when they killed Ned Stark at the end of season 1, it's something that you could use the word subverting, but actually it did fit within the narrative quite well.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, it was shocking to say the least, but it also made a lot of sense, and it really put you on your toes because now you understood that, oh, this isn't just your average happy-go-lucky fantasy. This is different. This is really rough stuff. And that worked, and they continually did that through Game of Thrones, right up to the Red Wedding, and then even beyond that until they ran out of material from the books, and then we ended up with what we got. Anyway, this is a Star Wars discussion. So
yeah, that's a little off topic, I guess.
So I guess we've gotten as far as Palpatine's back.
Oh yeah, we've made it way in, which was in the title crawl, of course. So,
Yeah.
And I guess we did talk a little bit about the MacGuffin following.
Yes.
And yes, Kylo Ren goes and meets with Palpatine, who... What does he tell him to do exactly? He says that he needs to go and he needs to bring the girl to him? Is that what he asks for?
Something like that.
Or does he want to kill her?
I think that he wants him to bring her to him.
Is that what he says, though, or does he say to kill her?
I don't remember.
I don't either. Because it doesn't make... I mean, if he says to bring her to him, that's literally exactly what Snoke did.
He kind of waffled on that a bunch. Like, even at the end when they're right in front of him, he's like, you need to kill me, and then you will become me, or whatever it is. And then, you're not going to do it, so I guess I'm going to kill you, and
that'll still work, because I can just absorb your Force essence out of you with my new Force powers that are changing every minute. And then instead you end up killing me anyway, and then that still doesn't accomplish the thing that I wanted to when I said to kill me in the first place.
Yeah. How can we be sure that it didn't?
How can we be sure? Maybe now he is the galaxy.
The galaxy
is Palpatine.
That's right.
And
his midi-chlorians have now been exploded across the galaxy.
So now the only option is for the Jedi to become a whole other galaxy and throw that galaxy at this galaxy.
Oh my gosh, there you go. It'll be Star Wars Andromeda.
Figured it out. This is how we escalate the stakes.
There you go. So it's not Star Killer. Now we are merging alternate universes together in one big fiery, I don't know. I get lost. I'll get lost here. It's no good. So
anyway.
So we cut then to the people in the Millennium Falcon. Oh, that's right, because there was a spy in the First Order, or should I say the Final Order? Oh my gosh! Just pick one and stick with it. All right, just pick one. All right, just pick one. The Empire was fine. You know, at least throughout the entire prequel series setting, it was the Senate or the Galactic Republic. Yeah, perfectly fine. And then throughout, the regular Star Wars, it was always the Empire, the Empire, the Empire. So why is it just not the Empire? I've never understood that. Now you've read a lot of the books, and there is some other term like Shadow Empire or something like that.
The Remnant.
Remnant. See, but that makes sense. That's a term that fits within the context of what's going on.
It was just the leftover people who were still loyal to the Empire.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah.
So, but instead of the Remnant, which actually sounds more menacing in many ways. Now it's the First Order.
The First Order. Never get an explanation on what the hell that's supposed to mean.
Now, presumably there are probably supporting materials out there.
Maybe. That shouldn't be necessary to understand the movie.
No. If you need to go and purchase a bunch of other crap to make a movie make sense, you're doing it wrong. Yeah.
Just simplify your story a little bit.
Yeah, you gotta not do that. I mean, and video games are every bit as guilty of this as anything else. And a lot of movies now with their marketing, I'm looking at you, Alien movies, are equally as guilty. Although typically they don't require you to really know this ancillary content to make sense of it, although Prometheus made no sense regardless. So maybe that's more charitable than it deserves as well. So who knows? Anyway, so they're getting some information from some guy who apparently knows somebody in the First Order that's going to be... Anyway, and apparently it takes a gajillion years to transfer data in their galaxy.
Which I believe amounted to, yes, Palpatine is actually back, which, his broadcast went to everyone. So
yeah.
So, okay. And then also I think it was that he has added their super fancy Star Destroyers that can actually blow up planets.
Okay.
I don't know if that information was included. But that would be the absolute most information that was included in that transmission, which can be summed up in one sentence, mind you.
Yeah. So it seems like they probably could have just said that.
And that there was a spy, I guess.
Or, I mean, I'm reminded of, wasn't there a disc that Leia shoved into R2-D2 or something like that?
Yeah, I think so.
So why did they need to pull out this giant weird-ass cable and have the
big
blinky
cable.
lights? It was a big ass cable.
Yeah,
do
you know what?
Big ass.
Does anyone in Hollywood know what data cables look like now?
Yeah,
and we don't have super fancy spaceships.
No.
I know that in the Star Wars universe, it's kind of like a mishmash of kind of old timey looking tech.
I try not to be too hard on them, but it was obscenely strange though.
Very.
It seemed like here, take this another MacGuffin, I guess.
Yeah.
Take this thing that you can then, a disc or a CD looking thing, whatever it is. Yeah. Why do you need this data transfer? There was obviously not some massive data dump.
Yeah. Well, in Rogue One, for instance, they put it all on a disc. Why, if this guy wanted to give them information, did he not just have a little disc he could toss into the Millennium Falcon when they got there? I mean, they fit the entire schematics of the Death Star onto the disc that they used in Rogue One. Yeah. So obviously that would be very possible.
Yeah. So I mean, that struck me as a very weird thing artistically to do, but the whole opening, I mean, the movie was so frantic. It hardly ever slowed down. Which, if you're the type of person who just wants to go from vista to vista to vista, that's fine. I have found that as I get older, I appreciate more thoughtfulness and a little more deliberate decision making, and it just gets to be tiresome to see some of this ridiculous nonsense just get thrown out there.
Yeah. So I mean, so they get the information. They're flying away. And apparently the First Order knew they were going to be there, so they're getting chased by TIE fighters, and they start, what do they call it? Light speed skipping.
Skipping. Oh, that was the worst.
Okay.
Oh, my gosh.
So why? The only ships following them are TIE fighters, so now you're telling me that each TIE fighter can track through light speed. Is that the reason for the light speed skipping? Because otherwise, why do light speed skipping unless you're trying to escape from ships that can track you through light speed?
Because they could spend more money on their visual artist for like 6 extra locations.
Oh my God, and they did. And none of it made any sense.
None of it made any sense. And the part that drives me crazy now, I think it was the first Star Wars movie, the original, where they're like, they're going to go to hyperspeed, and they're like calculating, and they're like, we can't jump to hyperspeed yet. You want to end up inside of some planet or inside going through some star?
Right.
Like, but now nothing means anything anymore.
Yeah, the idea of going through hyperspeed and ending up somewhere within atmosphere is so
gosh.
stupid in and of itself.
Yeah.
Because either you go into basically another dimension when you're in light speed, and when you pop back, you're coming back into the dimension, and that's why that could work. But then that makes Holdo's whole thing where she destroys
It was a 1 in a
ships.
It was a 1 in a million.
It was a 1 in a million
It was a
chance.
1 in a million.
But
It'll
no,
never
if
get
you-
done again.
If you go into another dimension, then she obviously wouldn't be able to ram any ships with hyperspeed.
Yeah.
So that doesn't work. So if you're just moving super fast and you hit atmosphere, you are fucked.
So fucked.
Absolutely fucked. So that would be why in the original trilogy you don't see anyone go into hyperspeed within the atmosphere of a planet or arriving within the atmosphere of a planet, because it makes no sense.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah. No, that's it. So that part bugged me and whatever. At some point you just have to. It's one of the reasons why the movie made me just not care. It totally disengaged me.
Yeah.
It's like, this is supposed to be really, really exciting, a visual, spectacular kind of thing, and I'm just like,
Yeah. It's so Star Wars, the original trilogy, I never expected them to go into great detail about how anything worked. I didn't want them to. That's not what you want. But they don't do anything so ridiculous that it couldn't be explained away with one explanation or another. In this new trilogy, that is not the case. They do thing after thing that there's no way to explain it away. It's just a plot hole at that point, when you can't even think of an explanation that makes sense.
Yeah, and that is a recurring theme throughout the movie. I have some bad news. I am out of beer.
Oh, I totally am too.
And we're going to keep talking about Star Wars, but in order to do that, we've got to get a refill. So
True story.
we'll be right back.